How's it going out there, YouTubers? Cyberneticshark here with another new movie review for you. So let's get right into this review and see what I saw. So welcome to another awesome review, YouTubers. Oh yeah. So the movie I by chance watched this time was actually a recommendation by one of my awesome subscribers. She asked me to review two movies. This is the first of the two that she asked me to review. Now, this movie happens to be a film from 1995 and directed by an amazing horror director that has, put out a ton of great films over the last 40 years. Now, this movie is just a really interesting film, too. I wasn't aware of this film, actually, until it was brought to my attention. Like, I had seen the name in passing, but I hadn't taken the opportunity to actually check it out. And, for this movie being over, 24 years old, I'm surprised it took me this long to watch it, especially with how awesome of a film it was. And that happens to be the film called In the Mouth of Madness. Oh, yeah. So, In the Mouth of Madness, like I said, is just a really awesome film. Really different, but a great take, great plot, and just a really awesome horror film. Now, this film happens to be directed by an awesome, like I said, horror director that's been around doing films for 40 plus years. And that, of course, is Mr. John Carpenter. Now, John Carpenter, you might recognize, from a slew of films that he's directed over the years, from Halloween, from The Thing, from They Live. He's done a ton of awesome films. Now, a couple films I really enjoyed that he directed that I think are some of his best films are none other than an awesome film that came out in the late 70s that stars Adrienne Barbeau and is about supernatural ghosts and all that kind of cool stuff. And that, of course, is the awesome film called The Fog. Oh, yeah. Now, if you haven't seen The Fog, you have not seen a great horror film ever. Because The Fog is one of the best horror films ever directed, ever made. Just a really great classic supernatural horror film. And the whole premise behind it, that this evil spirit basically are trying to come back and get revenge for what these townspeople did to them, is just a really cool concept. And I loved how John Carpenter, how he directed it and how he brought that whole idea to life and kind of how mysterious, and his music just makes it so, 3D-dimensional. And I just love that when he does his own music because he just brings such a great tone to it. It's so, electronic sounding, very, just amazing sound. And, his movies are just by far so amazing. And he did such a great job with The Fog and is one of the reasons why it's just one of my favorite films of his. Because I just think he directed the crap out of it and made it a really fantastic supernatural horror film that is, to my standards, one of the best horror films of all time. It definitely be in the top 10 of my favorite horror films of all time. Just a really well-rounded film, great cast. You had Adrienne Barbeau in it, you had Jamie Lee Curtis, and it was just a really amazing film. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, definitely check it out, people. It's worth the watch. Now, that brings me to the second film that John Carpenter directed that I absolutely love and is one of my top favorites of his. It's none other than an awesome film that came out in 1986 and starring the awesome Mr. Kurt Russell and the amazing Kate Capshaw. And that, of course, is the awesome film Big Trouble in Little China. Oh, yeah. This movie has every element that you could ask for in a film. It's got the horror kind of element, it's got the comedy, it's got the action. It's just a really amazing film and so well written. And Kurt Russell just kicked butt in this film. I absolutely loved him in it and thought he was just so super fantastic. And John just directed the crap again out of this film and made such a great film. The whole idea behind it, about these elemental people or these gods and stuff like that are still living on Earth and trying to, basically, stay alive and, do all this kind of cool stuff and this supernatural action stuff and, like that was just so cool and I absolutely love it. And it has some of the greatest one-liners in the film and just great action sequences and And it's a fantastic film. If you haven't had a chance to check that one out either, definitely check it out. Worth the watch. One of John's best films too as well. Really fun, really action-packed, and just great John Carpenter style. Now, when it comes to his directing of In the Mouth of Madness, once again, he brought that same John Carpenter vibe. And just made a great, fantastic film. The whole process, the whole plot, the whole idea behind In the Mouth of Madness was a really awesome concept, and totally something. We've seen, kind of, over the years now, we've seen kind of movies that are kind of, similar to it, but nothing compares to how this one was like its first of its kind, and really just brought, this cool concept of, this giant following of people, and how it creates this real reality and these real alien type of creatures are basically that they are, that also just really encompasses and is like trying to take over the world basically. It's just a really interesting, and it was a greatly directed by John. The music was amazing in it, and he just had an all-star cast that he really knew which direction to push them in and gave great performances. Really well directed by John, and a great film done by him as well. Now, like I was saying, this has a really awesome cast. Now, a few of these people I've seen in several movies over the years, and unfortunately one of the people in this film I've only seen actually in one film. And I really haven't seen her in much in anything else. Now, like I was saying, that this film is just really amazing and fun. And the cast really brought to life these characters, gave us this really awesome look, and just brought a really great, presence of enacting what was written of, bringing this movie to life. Now, to start off this awesome cast, we have none other than the main guy himself, Mr. Sam Neill. Now, Sam Neill you might recognize from a slew of films over the years. You might recognize him recently for being in the Christopher Robin film, or not Christopher Robin, sorry, the Peter Rabbit film that came out last year. You might recognize him in Jurassic Park 3. You might recognize him in Dead Calm, Event Horizon, a slew of films over the years he's been in that have just been fantastic films. Now, a couple films I really enjoyed him in were none other than an awesome film that came out in 1993 and was the beginning of an awesome film series that has, lasted all the way to up to last year so far. They just put out the fifth film in the awesome series that is just a great and amazing series that brings dinosaurs to life, basically. And that, of course, is the awesome film directed by Steven Spielberg, Jurassic Park. Oh, yeah. Woohoo. So Jurassic Park, if you haven't seen it, which I'm really shocked if you haven't seen Jurassic Park, because I think everyone's seen Jurassic Park. Anyways, Jurassic Park is just a great film. Sam Neill was in, and he just was so fantastic as Dr. Alan Grant. He was so awesome as him. I love his character in it. I just love where he took his character. I loved how he was like the mainstay of the film. I just liked his dialogue, how he interacted with the dinosaurs, how he took challenges, and I just thought he was really fantastic in the film, and brought a great sense to that film. And just playing that character too, I feel that you kind of came to know his awesome acting abilities and showing how good of an actor he is. And I just thought that he really brought it to the film and made a great, fantastic film, and just was a really great addition to that awesome film of great actors that were involved with that film. The second film that I'll be talking about for Mr. Sam Neill is an awesome film that came out last year, and that was a really big surprise to me of how good of a film it was. And at first I didn't realize that Sam Neill was in it until I actually watched it. And when I ended up seeing him in it, I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm glad he's in it. I always enjoy watching him. And his performance was just really awesome in it. And that, of course, is the awesome film starring Liam Neeson, The Commuter. Oh, yeah. So The Commuter, if you don't know what it's about, basically it's about almost kind of like the film Nonstop. Liam Neeson is this character that basically is on this commuter train, interacts with this person that tells him that he needs to find this person and kill them, or his family is going to be killed, basically. And Sam Neill ends up playing a character in the film as a cop that he's communicating with, that he used to know when he was on the force. And Sam Neill is just a really amazing actor, like I said, and his performance in it was just so awesome. I really enjoyed it. You kind of fell in love with this character throughout the film as it progressed, and you kind of, at first you kind of hated him, but then you fell in love with him and you liked him and you thought he was a really cool guy and that he was actually a good guy after all, and because you weren't too sure about him at first, and until the end you really don't know where he really stands, and just I thought he brought a great performance to that. Gave us this really great, mysterious character, and really showed again how great of an actor he is. Really enjoyed the role in that, and really worth watching the film just for that character. Besides, of course, Liam Neeson, but it was still it's very worth checking out if you're a big Sam Neill fan, because he was really great in it and did a great job. Now, it comes to In the Mouth of Madness. This was such an amazing role by Sam Neill. I think this was even better than his Jurassic Park portrayal, most definitely. And I thought that he brought such a great essence and a great vibe to that role, and really brought to life his character that he was playing in it, and how he really, he really doesn't know if he's really going insane or not. But at the same time, he's trying to stay like he's sane, and at the same time trying to figure things out. And he just brought that, and brought a real great essence to, if you were a person really not sure if you're really going insane, he really did a good job of making that portrayal real. And I thought he did a fantastic job in the film. Really great performance by Sam, and definitely one of his best films, I feel, to date. That brings me to my next actor in this awesome film. Now, this actor, he's been around for many, many years. He's done a lot of films. He was in a 2001 movie, The See Before You Die film, that came out in 1980 that was considered a huge commercial success and a Academy Award-winning film, called Das Boot, which is an interesting film in its own right. Now, this actor, like I said, he's been in Das Boot, he's been in a whole bunch of films, usually plays villains in the films that he's in, and he always plays villains great to the T, and it's just amazing and awesome. Now, that happens to be the awesome actor, Mr. Jürgen Prochnow. Now, Jürgen, like I said, you might recognize from Das Boot or as villains in different films over the years. But a couple films I really enjoyed him in and thought he was fantastic in were none other than an awesome film that is an action-packed, film that came out in 1997 and is just a really awesome Harrison Ford film, Poured Air Force One. And that, of course, is the film called Air Force One. Oh, I bet you didn't know that. So Air Force One is just a really awesome film, really well done film, so well directed by Wolfgang Petersen, and Jürgen Prochnow plays the main bad guy in the film along with Gary Oldman, and it's just a really amazing role, especially from the area where he's basically in jail the whole movie pretty much, and his performance just in the jail was really awesome and really well conceived and just really awesome. And I think that his performance just was so amazing and very comparable to Gary Oldman's in the role. And it's just a really well-rounded film, too, that Harrison Ford just kicked the butt out of, I feel. But I really enjoyed Jürgen's character in the film. I thought, like I said, he once again brought that great bad guy vibe to the character and gave us a really great performance. Really amazing film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, especially for Jürgen's performance. If you haven't seen it, Air Force One, definitely check out, people. It's worth the watch. Now that brings me to the second film he was in. That is another great 80s action-packed classic that stars the awesome Eddie Murphy. And that, of course, is the awesome film Beverly Hills Cop 2. Oh, yeah. So this time around, bringing back Eddie Murphy in the second Beverly Hills Cop film. This time around, Jürgen Prochnow plays the main villain in the film. And once again, he is just an amazing villain. You hate him, you despise him, but at the same time, he's so charismatic, and you're just like, ooh, I kind of like the guy, but at the same time, I know he's a bad guy. he always has a great presence to him, and he just does that so amazingly. And he brought that in Beverly Hills Cop 2 and just made such a fantastic villain. And probably one of my favorite villains of the Beverly Hills Cop series. I think he was probably the best one out of the three. And just he really brought a great presence, a great, bad guy character, and just did a great performance. Really enjoyed it, and really fantastic acting by Jurgen. Really great. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it yet either. Now, with his performance in The Awesome in the Mouth of Madness, once again, he plays a bad guy, and he brings that great sinister evilness to himself, and it was nice to see him kind of in a different type of genre, also to be in a horror film. And I liked how he approached it and how he took his evilness to another level in the film. I really enjoyed that he was like so mysterious, but at the same time, like, you didn't know what to expect from him, and he really brought that in this film versus any of the other like bad guy characters I've seen him play. It was so different than any of his other characters as well, and I really enjoyed that, and really showed that Jurgen has such a great acting ability, and just how great of a performance it was, and how it made the film even better. Really great job by Jurgen, and definitely worth checking out for Jurgen. He was really great in it. So the next person up on the awesome actor roster in this film is an actress that hasn't been in a ton of things. She's been in a few movies of years, but a lot of them I have not seen or I've never even heard of. And quite a few of the things that she's actually been in that I have seen is like, TV shows like NYPD Blue and stuff like that. But one film that I actually have seen her in was a fantastic film that just was a really great sequel. Now, the actress I'm talking about is Miss Julie Carmen. Now, Julie Carmen, like I said, has been on different shows, has been on several different movies over the years, but primarily she did a lot of acting in the 80s and the 90s, and really has done a few things here and there over the years, and did some stuff in the 70s as well. But the only movie I've actually had a chance to see her in, and thought that she was pretty fantastic in, was an awesome movie from the late 80s that was a sequel to an awesome, vampire film that came out in 1986. And its sequel is the awesome film, wait for it, what is it? Fright Night #2. Oh yeah. So Fright Night Part 2. This awesome film was very similar to the first one, but totally went in a totally different direction. But Julie Carmen was in the film and plays one of the main vampire gals in the film. And she was just fantastic as this evil vampire lady. And she brought a great, awesome, like, bad guy presence to the character. And just really showed that she has some pretty decent acting chops. And that, she can do, sexy, but she can also do very sinister and very, strong-willed and, very dominant type of character. And she really brought that in Fright Night Part 2, I should say. And just, it was a really fantastic film. And just a really great performance by Julie. I really enjoyed it, and I thought she did a really fantastic job. But it comes to In the Mouth of Madness, I felt she was okay in the film. I definitely don't think her performance was as good as in Fright Night Part 2, but definitely it was kind of over-accentuated, or it was overacting, I should say, in this film, unfortunately. But I think that was part of what her character was supposed to be doing. But at the same time, she was decent and she was okay, but was not my favorite character in the film. She definitely was interesting and different, like I said, and it was a very interesting role to see her in, and to see her interact with all the other characters, from, Jurgen's character and Sam Neill's character, and just like how her character evolves throughout the film and where she ends up in the film, and how you end up figuring out who she really is or what she really is. It was a really interesting, performance, different, not the greatest, but definitely interesting, and she's worthy of checking out in this film. That brings me to the last awesome actor that was in this film. Now, this gentleman was a master actor. He was in a ton of films over the years. He was a great thespian. He was just an amazing, actor that, unfortunately lost in 2008. And was just a really amazing guy. And that, of course, is Mr. Charlton Heston. Now, Charlton Heston, you might recognize from a slew of films over the years. A lot of Western films. You might recognize him from, doing a lot of the talking and propagating and trying to, get rights for having arms and firearms and stuff like that. And he was a big advocate for that and stuff like that. He did a lot of, films. He did a lot of TV shows. I mean, he was all over the place and has done a ton of things. Now, a couple of films I really enjoyed him and thought he was fantastic in was an awesome 1968 film that was the start of an awesome film series that, concluded, a few years later down the road, about, I think it was probably it was like 20 years almost. I think it was the late 70s, early 80s that the last film was. But this was the start of the film series that he started in, and he was just so fantastic and awesome in the film. And that, of course, is the film The Planet of the Apes. Oh, yeah. This is probably one of his biggest known films, I feel. A lot of people, you say Charlton Heston, like, oh, Planet of the Apes. And he just was so awesome in the film. He was so perfect. Did greatness in the film, did great acting, great portrayal of the character astronaut guy that he plays, and just the whole idea behind the Planet of the Apes was a really cool concept as well. And it was just really awesome to see him in the film because has such a great acting presence anyways, and he was so good in it. And he just really did an amazing job with the role and just was fantastic and fun. The second film that I really enjoyed that Charlton Heston was in, I think is a great action film that came out in 1994 and directed by James Cameron. I absolutely loved his character in the film. I thought he was so awesome playing kind of the head honcho guy at the firm where Arnold Schwarzenegger and the awesome, amazing Tom Arnold works at. And this movie was just such a fantastic action film, so well directed by Cameron. It was a great film, had a great cast, just great action sequences and fighting. A fantastic film. And then, of course, is the awesome film True Lies. Oh, yeah. So if you're not familiar with True Lies, it's an awesome, like I said, action epic film where Arnold Schwarzenegger plays an undercover, agent guy along with Tom Arnold, and they're trying to track down this bad guy, and Charlton Heston plays their boss, basically. And his whole persona in the film was so awesome. His voice was perfect. The eye patch thing was really awesome. And he just was such a key to that role, I feel. And such a great addition to that film and just made a great presence and awesomeness to that character. I really enjoyed his character and thought he was just fantastic and perfect for the role. I can't picture anybody else playing that character. And he just was so amazing in it. I really enjoyed him. Even though it wasn't a huge part, it still was perfect and to the point. And showed how great of a talent Charlton Heston was. Really well done, really enjoyed it, and worth the watch if you haven't seen it. Now, it comes to his character in The Mouth of Madness. Once again, he kind of plays a head honcho kind of executive guy, and I enjoyed his character. I thought he was fun. I thought he was interesting. I really liked where his character went. I like how he started out and how he ends, and how kind of it's like he's one person at this point, but another person at this point, you're like, what the heck? What was I actually, what was going on? Why is this story so twisted and, so good? And Charlton just brought that character to life and gave us a great performance. Really awesome role by Charlton Heston and fun to watch. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. So if you don't know what In the Mouth of Madness is about, basically the plot of the film is Sam Neill's character is a private investigator for people to see if they're doing a fraudulent claim for an insurance company. And basically he gets brought in by Charlton Heston's company to try to find this author who has kind of vanished and hasn't, been able to be found, and they're trying to make sure that he's still alive and that he's not, the claims that are going on with his current book aren't being caused by him, basically. And so Sam Neill, basically, through the movie, is going on a hunt trying to find this guy, and basically all the crazy antics that follow with him trying to do this, and kind of how he ends up, basically feeling like he's going like these certain people that are kind of going insane, and basically he has to figure out what he's got to do and to basically save the world. Basically, it's a really amazing film. Like I said, I was really thrown back by it. I thought it was really awesome. Really enjoyed it. Thought it was just a fun film. Really well directed, like I said, by John Carpenter. Amazing and just fun, and something that I highly recommend. Giant 10 golden movie boxes up on this one. Definitely something I would like to add to my collection eventually, and just a really fun film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, people. It's worth the watch. It's a really fantastic film, great, especially if you're a John Carpenter fan. Definitely check this out, people. Worth the view. Well, that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. And also, thank you for subscribing. And if it's your first time here, if you've been here before and you haven't hit that subscribe button, what are you waiting for? A grand invitation? Do I have to have aliens invade the earth to get you to subscribe? Come on, people. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss this awesome video or any awesome videos I put up. And as always, people, keep your eyes out for any old or newer videos you might not have seen mine yet. And as always, people, check out the awesome Stardust app, where you can watch 3 to 30-second little mini reviews, TV shows, trailers, documentaries, anything your heart desires, where awesome new features are being added all the time. And this is a free awesome app that you can get through your respective Play Store. So definitely download that, check that out, people. And if that does interest you, go ahead and look for me under the Cybernetic 13. Follow me and I'll follow you back. And as always, people, catch you in the next one.